Greetings all, Ferrariman601 here. Welcome to the live commentary stream for the 2017 United States Grand Prix. It has come. Finally, Formula One is back in the Western Hemisphere, and it has come stateside. It is my home Grand Prix at the Circuit of the Americas from just outside Austin, Texas. It is an absolutely wonderful facility, and it is a beautiful day in Texas for a motor race. Bright sunshine. Apparently, we've got calm winds today. It was rather windy yesterday in qualifying. A few drivers were complaining about that. A certain Max Verstappen and Kimi Räikkönen caught out by those winds. However, everything is bright, shiny, and clear in Texas. As always, just to remind all of you, for these live commentary streams, I shall not be streaming any actual video, audio, or still image content of the actual Formula One session in progress, considering that is a massive copyright violation. And also, just as a public service announcement, YouTube has clamped down on free speech. I'm not allowed to use the term shootout in any of my videos anymore, so my hot lap comparisons are going to be called hot lap comparisons from here on out. Thus is the chilling effect of the left-wingers here on the internet. However, all that aside, it is a wonderful day for a motor race, and the starting grid is as follows. Remember, we have had many penalties applied. In pole position here, number 72 of his career, Lewis Hamilton. P2 for Sebastian Vettel. It was only about 3/10 between those guys in qualifying. Do Ferrari have any answer for Mercedes? We shall see. P3 for Valtteri Bottas. So the Ferrari sandwiching itself right between the two Mercedes teammates. P4 for Daniel Ricciardo in the first of the Red Bulls. P5 for Kimi Räikkönen in the second Ferrari. P6 for Esteban Ocon for Force India. And P7 for Carlos Sainz in his debut race for Renault. P8 for Fernando Alonso, an absolutely brilliant qualifying effort by the Spaniard in the recalcitrant Honda. He is really hoping for Renault power next year. P9 for Sergio Perez in the second Force India. P10 for Felipe Massa. P11 for Daniel Kvyat. He has returned for Toro Rosso after being deputized by Pierre Gasly. P12 for Romain Grosjean in the first of the Haas cars. Haas participating in their second home Grand Prix as a team. P13, Marcus Ericsson in the first of the Saubers. He's followed immediately by his teammate Pascal Wehrlein in P14. P15 for Lance Stroll. He received a grid spot penalty after impeding Romain Grosjean quite deliberately and egregiously in qualifying. There was a closing speed of over 100 kilometers an hour between those two cars. It was almost a massive accident at the end of Sector 3. P16 for Max Verstappen. He received a massive grid spot penalty due to powertrain component failures and changes. P17 for Kevin Magnussen in the second Haas car. P18 for Nico Hülkenberg in the second Renault. He also received some penalties. P19 for the debutant Brendan Hartley, the New Zealander, in the second Toro Rosso car this weekend. And P20 all the way in the back, starting from Houston, Stoffel Van Dorn in the second Honda. Cameron Rich, you're actually watching this from Coda. You are at the race, is that correct? That is absolutely tremendous. I have never been to a Formula One race. In fact, I've only been to one World Championship racing event. That was the IndyCar race at Pocono this year. And that was a tremendous experience, but I would love to get to see Formula One someday. For me, the closest race to get to would actually be Montreal. Texas is about twice the distance from me as Montreal, Canada. So if ever I get to see a race, it's most likely going to be Montreal. I agree. Who cares about new cars and financial security? You've got to go to a race. Don't eat breakfast for as long as you need to do in order to secure those tickets. Absolutely tremendous. we do have some talking points for today's race. It is possible that we can see both championships clinched today, the Constructors and the Drivers' Championships. I'm not going to bother going through all the permutations here because, quite honestly, I don't have them, and I don't really feel like going to look for them. But basically, Lewis Hamilton needs to win or come in second, and Sebastian Vettel needs to score no points at all, effectively. I think Vettel can finish as high as 6th if Hamilton manages to win the race. However, considering that these two guys have lined up right next to each other on the grid, I don't think that we're going to see the Drivers' Championship secured today. The Constructors' Championship, however, that is a different story. Because Kimi Räikkönen is trailing his teammate by a considerable margin here, Vettel is in P2 and Räikkönen is in P5, and we do know that the Ferraris have tended to fall off the pace as the race develops. We could see the Constructors' Championship clinched today, although all of that remains to be seen. Big changes here in the lead up to the race. The drivers are being introduced in typical Texas fashion. Those of you who don't follow American motorsports, seeing driver introductions in this sort of manner is par for the course. However, Formula One doesn't really do this kind of thing. It's far more dignified, in my opinion. However, in the United States, we introduce the drivers either individually or by team, as they're doing in this case, and it's definitely going to throw a wrench in the works in terms of the driver's rhythm there on the pre-grid, just getting everything together. Fernando Alonso there making his grand entrance. He, of course, is returning to the United States for at least the second time this year because he ran in the Indy 500 and quite honestly could have had a podium finish there if Mick Honda didn't strike there as well. Alonso just signed a deal for 2018 and beyond with McLaren, albeit with Renault power next year. McLaren's chassis has been pretty good, as evidenced by his qualifying efforts, so with the Renault power unit, could we see him challenging near the front, at least amongst the Red Bulls? Definitely. Ricciardo there in P4 with his don't call it a Renault Tag Heuer engine. So Alonso in that Renault-powered car, perhaps P3 or even P2 on the grid. We shall see next year. Carlos Sainz and Nico Hülkenberg looking pretty content there, making their entrance. The Haas drivers here receiving a rather large round of applause here from the home fans, as you might expect. And yes, we have Yona and Ogeshi. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name, but for a while I thought that both of you were the same person because you both have Portuguese-ish names and you both have Alpha logos as your avatars, so I apologize for any confusion between both of you. Alpha does need to be in F1, and it's insufficient just to have their logo on the backs of the Ferraris. Alpha needs to have a factory team, dare I say rebranded Sauber. I don't know, but it would be cool. Would definitely be cool to see Alfa Romeo back in Formula One. I pronounced your name as Iona. You've got an acute accent over the A there, which means it gets the stress. Behave yourself, Cameron. We don't need to see your name in the newspaper tomorrow morning. Max Verstappen's introduction here. Let's see. Does he have the same sort of reception here stateside as he does virtually everywhere else the Formula One World Championship goes? Alright, Will Buxton is apparently interviewing him. Cool. Interesting. Yeah, and whoever is doing these driver introductions needs some foreign language lessons. It's not pronounced Scuderia Ferrari. No, it's Scuderia Ferrari. Yeah. Texans, what you gonna do? We're going to have to get these introductions finished here because we're coming down 18 minutes before the formation lap starts, and they're going to have to clean up all this crap from the grid. Formula One is absolutely obsessive-compulsive when it comes to their timetable. They will not tolerate any delays. I do have to say, though, the drivers do seem to be enjoying all this. At least Max and Daniel are. I don't know about anybody else. I do have to say, those two get on really well. They are probably the best pairing in terms of the chemistry between them on the grid. And, of course, their race performances aren't too shabby either. Yeah, we've got to speed this up a little bit, guys. We're coming into 15 minutes remaining. It took this announcer like 5 seconds to figure out how to pronounce Germany. Come on, guys. Alright, Lewis Hamilton about to come out. Let's watch his body language here. yep, so far I think fans have been respectful toward everybody, so I don't know. Love him or hate him, Lewis Hamilton is the face of Formula One right now, and I really hope that as a four-time champion where he's going to be up there with Vettel, Prost, Fangio, Schumacher, and that's it. I really hope that humbles him a little bit more, because he is the face of the sport, but he is not a statesman as far as I'm concerned. He needs to assume that role. He needs to be the uniting force behind this sport, much like Schumacher was, much like Senna was. Hamilton hasn't really come into his own yet in that position, and I'm not entirely sure if he'll be there. And now the United States National Anthem. Alrighty then, a typically terrible performance of the United States National Anthem. Nobody ever performs that song as it was actually written. It's written in 6/4 time, believe it or not. Everybody performs it in 3/4, and it sounds like some sort of funeral dirge, and of course they add all of their very poorly executed embellishments to it. He didn't even know how to pronounce the English language properly, that particular singer, and he's with the military, so that's interesting. However, nobody took a knee, which was good to see, and of course, very cool to see President Clinton on the grid as well. Yes, U.S. terrestrial TV has also gone into commercial. We've got 10 minutes to go before the start of this race, so I hope that they're able to evacuate the grid as quickly as possible. The drivers only now, I'd imagine, are walking toward their cars, so all of that briefing stuff and all that configuration stuff that they've got to do normally on the pre-grid, they now have to compress all of that down into 10 minutes. Normally they have at least 20 minutes to do that. More often they have about 30 minutes to get all of that after the reconnaissance laps are completed and the pit lane is closed. So everything's going to be rushed as far as the teams are concerned here. Yes, free practice 1 and 2 in Mexico will be the perfect birthday present, I am sure. Not sure what this means for me, but I'm actually looking more forward to the Mexican Grand Prix than I am to this race. There's something about the cars running in Mexico City at the high altitude that makes them a bit more interesting to watch. Yes, those turbo engines are definitely an advantage running at higher altitudes, such as you get in Mexico City, because of forced induction, that charge air is going to be denser by default, and of course, in the normally aspirated days, way back in the day when they ran in Mexico City, same circuit of course, but all of those cars were normally aspirated. They were down quite a bit on horsepower, sometimes in the region of up to 20% due to that altitude difference, so the turbocharged engine's definitely an advantage in Mexico City. Also, we tend to see the highest straight line speeds of the year at the Mexican Grand Prix as well. Of course, part of that is due to that really long straight, but beyond that, the air density is a bit less due to the altitude difference, and therefore, there's less drag. Seven minutes to go before the start of the formation lap here. The drivers are all getting suited up and being installed into the cars. The teams don't seem rushed. The drivers do seem ever so slightly rushed because they were, of course, preoccupied with the pre-race ceremonies. Camera's following Fernando Alonso here, just getting on the balaclava. All of the pink stuff this weekend, of course, that is due to breast cancer awareness. I think it's a nice gesture by Formula One, but F1 typically doesn't do this kind of thing where you see different gear, different colors, different sponsors, different things like that for different cultural events. Formula One is a little bit more austere than that, and certainly it's a good cause, but I think it just kind of becomes a little bit gimmicky for them to be doing things like that. I mean, sure, do it. It doesn't make a difference, but are we going to have different colors for all sorts of awareness months? Insert your cause here. Are we going to have green and blue and pink and all kinds of things at every race? I hope not. Yeah, just to reiterate to everybody, this is a commentary stream only, as well as a live chat. I cannot show you any actual Formula One footage, or stream any audio, or show you any still images due to copyright restrictions. I can talk about the race, but I can't show you the race. Yeah, Cameron, I was surprised by that as well at the IndyCar race. The cars definitely look different in person than they do on television. I think it's got to do with the aperture and exposure settings on the TV cameras, and of course they are trying to be as uniform across the board so when they switch feeds for the broadcast, it's not too jarring for you, but your eyes are different from a camera, of course, and colors and shapes and textures, it's all different when you're actually there in person, and I'd imagine these cars look pretty impressive in person, but at the same time, some of them probably look a little bit rough around the edges. I was lucky enough to kick the tires of a Ferrari F2002 a number of years ago, and I was surprised at just the amount of rough edges on things on that car. I mean, the body panels didn't quite match up with each other in some places. The trailing edges of the wings were actually a little bit rough. So the cameras tend to smooth out things like that. When you get in close to something with your own eyes, you can see the minute little imperfections and things like that. It's got to give you a different impression. Coming within 3 minutes to go, DRS has been disabled by race control. The track status has officially gone green, and we've got the tire allocations up on timing and scoring. It is coming down to the wire. Absolutely, the livery design there has to be thinking of TV as number one, because where is all that revenue coming from? It's coming from the TV viewers. So you've got to make sure that you've got colors and graphics and shapes and things that are going to stand out on camera versus with the eye. Obviously, your TV revenue, that's what's going to pay the bill. So if your sponsors want to put their name on the car, that means they want to put their name on television. So make it stand out. Am I the only one who actually prefers a CRT monitor in terms of the way that things looked? I think the softer angles, the softer lines that you get on a CRT monitor actually makes it easier to watch. My eyes are still not quite accustomed to the sharp lines and things that you get on these plasma screens and LCD screens and all that. Cars are being fired up right now. We are about 1 minute away from the start of the formation lap, so that terminal countdown clock starts. The mechanics will all run off the grid in a couple of seconds, leaving the drivers and cars alone. On board with Lewis Hamilton, the car is on the ground, keeping the blankets over the tops of the tires for a couple more seconds of supplemental heating, and now the mechanics all disperse and run to their respective sides of the racetrack before that second red light goes out. The grid is clear. Green flags are up, the lights have gone green, and the formation lap is underway. appears that all the cars have made it off the grid successfully. And now all the mechanics run back into the pit lane as quickly as possible as the tail end of the field just comes up the hill toward turn 1. Tire allocations for this first stint. We have all cars from P1 to P9 running on the Ultrasoft. Felipe Massa in P10 running on the Supersofts. Kvyat and Grosjean in 11th and 12th also running the Ultrasofts. Soft compounds for Marcus Ericsson, Lance Stroll, Kevin Magnussen, and Stoffel Van Dorn. The Ultrasofts on Hulkenberg and Hartley, and the normal soft compound for Pascal Wehrlein. Yeah, that climb up to turn 1 here. Of course, I've never actually been to COTA, but from any footage I've seen, any onboard footage, and of course running this circuit on iRacing, you are looking at the sky when you're approaching turn 1. You can't see the apex at all, nor can you really see the braking point. Hamilton and co. coming through the final corner now. The drivers start their bite point fine procedure, and of course they'll do their final burnouts coming to the grid on board with Daniel Ricciardo in P4. Hamilton is stopped. Vettel is stopped. Row 1 in position, row 2 in position. It is just about time to get going, folks. Still waiting Stoffel Van Dorn and Brendan Hartley to take their respective positions. The safety car is in position. Van Dorn has stopped. Hartley has stopped. Standby for the lights. The start sequence is underway. 3 lights, 4 lights, 5. Pause. And it is go at the 2017 United States Grand Prix. Good starts by Vettel and Hamilton respectively. Vettel challenging Hamilton into turn 1. He'll have the inside line. Sebastian Vettel takes the lead to the apex in turn 1. Hamilton has to back out. Sebastian Vettel leads the United States Grand Prix out of turn 1. Watching for any action at the back. So far, everybody behaving themselves. Raikkonen going too wide there with Esteban Ocon. Raikkonen had to cede that position. Ocon in P5, Raikkonen down to P6. Sebastian Vettel doing exactly what he needed to do there off the start. Hamilton got, I thought, a slightly better initial getaway. However, that Ferrari power was able to reel the Mercedes into turn 1, and Sebastian put it right on the inside line and stole that apex from Hamilton. Down the long back straight for the first time. Of course, no DRS on the first 2 laps, so Vettel should not be under threat from the Mercedes. Bottas getting close to his teammate there at the end of the straight. Lock up for Daniel Ricciardo as well, as he's fighting with Esteban Ocon now. Sector 2 times are in. 40.210 for Sebastian Vettel, 40.597 for Lewis Hamilton. We'll watch the first lap times here. Mind you, they all had a standing start. Vettel over the line for lap 1, 33.345 in Sector 3, 33.718 in Sector 3 for Lewis Hamilton. Kevin Magnussen being classed in the pit lane here. What happened to the Haas driver? Fernando Alonso in P7. He has Carlos Sainz immediately behind. Valtteri Bottas and Daniel Ricciardo very close through turn 1. Ricciardo forces Bottas off the circuit. Bottas comes back through turn 2 and 3. Ricciardo fighting hard, however, Bottas takes that position. Bottas maintains his third place. Daniel Ricciardo remains in P4 here. Esteban Ocon behind. Hamilton fastest in Sector 1, 26.911. Sebastian Vettel, 27.204 through Sector 1. The Mercedes is marginally better than the Ferrari through Sector 1, despite what we saw yesterday in qualifying. I do not have any more information as to what happened to Kevin Magnussen. He was in the pit lane, and he is confirmed having made a pit stop. He's now on to the soft compound tires, the yellow sidewalled soft tires. He is down 3 positions from where he started, as is Pascal Wehrlein. Wehrlein now P19, Magnussen P20. Brendan Hartley remains in P18, up 1 spot by that pit stop by Magnussen, and Van Dorn up into 17th. Max Verstappen already up to P11. Great start. Sebastian Vettel over the line to complete lap 2, 141.056. Lewis Hamilton, however, takes fastest lap of the race, a 140.945. The interval is just over 1 second. DRS enabled. Yes, we have not gotten any confirmation as to what happened with Wehrlein or Magnussen. However, I do support the theory that there was contact between those two. Are we going to see anything? No, we are not. Replay on board with Kimi Räikkönen on Esteban Ocon. What happened here? Räikkönen shoves it down the inside. Räikkönen back into P5. The gap between Vettel and Hamilton is stable at just around 1 second. Does Hamilton have DRS? Hamilton does not have DRS as far as I can see on board with Max Verstappen. He is currently in P10. He has passed Sergio Perez for P10. Max Verstappen already in the points. Hamilton radio to Mercedes saying that everything feels pretty good at this point. We are only on lap 3. Vettel, fastest lap, 140.654. To compare that to Hamilton's 140.780. The gap is growing now to 1.1 seconds exactly. Nico Hülkenberg shown in the pit lane from P17. Valtteri Bottas pushing Ricciardo off the circuit this time. The roles are reversed as they were on the previous lap. This could come to tears. There was almost contact through turn 3 there. You could fit just about a sheet of copy paper between the left front of Danny Ricciardo and the right rear of Valtteri Bottas. Ricciardo thought better of that, and they are now following each other to the tune of about 1/3 of a second. In replay, Ricciardo on Bottas' return. Wow, Ricciardo came from a long way back and did a kamikaze move up into turn 1, and he almost made it work. However, Bottas was able to do a switchback as Ricciardo ran a bit wide, and Bottas maintains that position. However, Daniel is absolutely fired up, but he is going to have to be careful not to fall into the clutches of Kimi Räikkönen, who's behind him to the tune of 7/10. Meanwhile, Sebastian Vettel resets fastest lap, a 140.654 last time by. Hamilton does a 140.780. The gap has grown to 1.2 seconds. Vettel is out of DRS range. And speaking of out, Nico Hulkenberg has parked the Renault. Hulkenberg is out of the race, our first retirement on lap 4. Watching down to Ricciardo coming into turn 1 for the third time. Will he try anything? No, he thinks better of it. He had a look to the inside, just saw the car twitch there, but he had second thoughts. I do agree. Turn 1 could use a bit of positive camber there, just raising the outside shoulder of the circuit, the right-hand side of the circuit, just to funnel those cars down the hill a little bit better, and perhaps they could carry a bit more speed through there. Nothing tremendous, maybe 6-7 degrees of banking, but just a little bit, sort of like that corner leading onto the backstretch in China is banked ever so slightly, something along those lines. Lewis Hamilton takes fastest lap, 140.531, fastest in Sector 1. The gap is now half a second between he and Sebastian Vettel for the lead. Lewis Hamilton has DRS down the back straight. I don't have any speed charts up at the moment, however, Hamilton is gaining on Vettel. Replay of the start, Hamilton and Vettel having effectively equal getaways at the first phase of the start. However, the second phase of the start, once the clutch bite was complete and Vettel started going up through the gears, that Ferrari had just a little bit more grunt than the Mercedes. Everybody did very good to avoid contact through turn 1, I must say. On board with Max Verstappen there. He's going to be playing a video game up into turn 1. What does he do? He nearly gets taken up by Lance Stroll right at the beginning of the race. However, he tucks it inside. Pretty quickly disposes of Lance Stroll there. On board with Sebastian Vettel, he had an absolutely perfect getaway. I see absolutely no wheel spin, no clutch chatter at all. That Ferrari was just off and then it was on. Hamilton really on Sebastian Vettel now. The gap is down to 1/10 of a second. Are we about to see a move here from Lewis Hamilton for the race lead here on lap 6? It is possible. Timing and scoring now showing Lewis Hamilton in P1, diving down the inside at the end of the long straight. Lewis Hamilton takes the lead. Now, can Sebastian Vettel maintain his track position and not fall too far behind Lewis Hamilton? If he stays within 1 second, he will have that DRS advantage down the start-finish straight as well as down the back straight. Can the Ferrari hold station with the Mercedes here? Vettel is in DRS range down the start-finish straight. Vettel is on the button. Does the Ferrari have any straight line speed advantage over that Mercedes, even with DRS? Not all that much. It's only about 7 kilometers an hour. Of course, Hamilton will have the wick turned right up to 11 here on that Mercedes power unit. And of course, we all know that it's putting out at least 1,000 horsepower. I would estimate closer to 1,100. Best sounding engine, I do have to say that Ferrari sounds very, very nice from the onboard shots. Externally, you can hear a little bit of variation between all these cars, but because all of these engines are V6s at 1.6 liters displacement at 90-degree bank angles with 4 valves per cylinder, there's not much variation in the actual engine sound. But with the construction of the cars, the way the vibrations filter through the monocoque is going to be different on every car. I do think the Ferraris does sound the best, and then, believe it or not, I think the Renault actually sounds pretty good. Pascal Wehrlein being shown in the garage. He is out of the race. Our second retirement here on lap 8. Wehrlein and Hulkenberg are both out. Kevin Magnussen, the last car running in P18. The gap between Hamilton and Vettel has grown to 1.4 seconds. Vettel already outside of DRS range. That Mercedes is quick. Yeah, the best sounding F1 engine of all time, as far as I'm concerned. I really liked that 2005 Mercedes Ilmor V10, the one in the back of the McLarens. That was spectacular. The old BMW P84, P85 V10s, they were also pretty cool, but that Mercedes from 05 was unique. Yes, there was contact between Wehrlein and Magnussen. That prompted the pit stop for Magnussen. However, Wehrlein appeared to have the worst of that damage, considering he's now out of the race. Magnussen's lap times are actually faster than those of everybody in front of him up to P12. No, make that P11. He's even lapping faster than Sergio Perez and Felipe Massa, believe it or not. He's actually on the pace of Carlos Sainz all the way up in P9, even though Magnussen is in P18. Magnussen may actually be good to go as far as this pit stop strategy is concerned. He is on the soft compound tires. He made the pit stop about 6 laps ago, so he may actually be able to continue all the way to the end of this race. We'll see how that storyline develops. Brendan Hartley, meanwhile, the debutant New Zealander in P17, he has Marcus Ericsson in front of him to the tune of 1.3 seconds. Kevin Magnussen behind. And now as I speak, Brendan Hartley takes to the pit lane. Early pit stop here on lap 8. Is everything okay? Brendan Hartley, he made his pit stop. That was a normal stop. He is now onto the super soft tires. He is out back in the race. Now last car running. Incident under investigation. Daniel Ricciardo and Valtteri Bottas in turn 1. I'm not entirely sure which incident they're investigating because they had 2 as far as my count goes. We'll wait for word from the stewards. Now, the 2005 Ferrari engine, the 055 V10, that was also a really nice one from the onboard shots, but external sounds, most of those 05 V10s sounded pretty similar, apart from the Hondas, the BMWs, and the Mercedes. They had the best external sounds that year. Best engine sound from the 90s, McLaren MP46, that Honda RA121E V12, yeah. That just sounds like something has emerged from the fiery pits of hell. That's fantastic. We need that sound again. On board with Kimi Räikkönen. Speaking of engine sounds, the Ferrari sounds quite healthy. He is chasing Daniel Ricciardo for P4, and Räikkönen's car appears to be a bit faster. The gap is just about a half a second. Räikkönen will have DRS on Ricciardo this time. Ricciardo will not have DRS on Valtteri Bottas, who is about 4.5 seconds up the road. Räikkönen 23 kilometers an hour faster down the straight with DRS than that Red Bull. Speaking of Red Bulls, Max Verstappen is all the way up into P7, and he is fighting with Esteban Ocon. He's looking down the inside at the end of the straight. Easy position for Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen now all the way up into P6. Verstappen just drove by Esteban Ocon. I wonder if the Frenchman has a problem because he put up no fight whatsoever. The pass really didn't begin until about halfway through the braking zone. Verstappen radio. Red Bull to Verstappen saying, we're back in the game. I would definitely say so. You're running in P6. You are in the mid-pack of the point scores already here on lap 11. His next target is Kimi Räikkönen, who is about 8.3 seconds up the road. I don't think it's impossible by any stretch of the imagination that we may be able to see Verstappen on the podium this afternoon. Working lap 11 of 56. The order is Lewis Hamilton leads from Sebastian Vettel to the tune of 3.2 seconds. P3 is Valtteri Bottas. P4, Daniel Ricciardo. P5 for Kimi Räikkönen. 6th, as we've been talking about, Max Verstappen with an absolutely meteoric first stint of this U.S. Grand Prix. P7, Esteban Ocon. P8, Fernando Alonso holding his own in the Mac Honda. P9 for Carlos Sainz in the Renault, remember that. And P10 for Felipe Massa, the last of your point scorers at this moment. However, Sergio Perez may have something to say about that. He's in P11, and he is behind Massa only to 0.775 seconds. 0.3 of a second is the gap between Massa and Perez for P10. Kimi Räikkönen with DRS on down to Ricciardo up into turn 1. He is not quite close enough to try any sort of moves, and the Finn rightly maintains his position. Vettel radio. Sebastian Vettel saying that he has some blistering problems on his front left tire. Most of that, I imagine, is going to be induced through the very, very fast and flowing Sector 1. So far, his lap times are trailing Lewis Hamilton's by about 1 second per lap. Hamilton's last lap, 140.886. Vettel's last lap, a 141.927. The gap is 3 seconds. Ricciardo versus Verstappen lap times, they are almost identical. Ricciardo's last time by a 141.467. Compare that with Verstappen, a 141.103. There's about 0.3 between them. Also, the stewards at this point say that lap 2 accident between Ricciardo and Bottas, no action. Ricciardo in the pit lane. Of course, we can't see it because U.S. terrestrial television is in commercial break talking about old people. Räikkönen, fastest sector 2, 39.853. Everybody else running in the 40s. Perez in the pit lane as well. Ricciardo out onto the super soft compound. Ricciardo resumes in P9. Perez leaving the pit lane on the soft compound, the yellow sidewall tires. He resumes in P15. At the sharp end of the field, the lap times between Sebastian Vettel and Lewis Hamilton are effectively identical now. Well, they were. Now they are not. Lewis Hamilton last time by 140.716. Sebastian Vettel 141.269. The gap is now 4 seconds. Just waiting for timing and scoring to recycle there. Fastest in Sector 2, Daniel Ricciardo, a 39.710. He is 4/10 behind Carlos Sainz for P8. I am expecting an overtake to happen in mere moments there. Ricciardo takes Sainz for P8. Verstappen is now up to P5. Currently, we are not going to see the Drivers' Championship cinched up today, with Hamilton and Vettel finishing in their current running order. Sebastian Vettel would need to drop down to P6 or lower for Lewis Hamilton to win the Drivers' Championship today. In replay, down to Ricciardo overtaking Carlos Sainz for P8. Easy move into turn 1. Daniel Ricciardo now only 6 tenths behind Fernando Alonso for P7. That should be easy work. Alonso's not going to fight Ricciardo. He just doesn't have the power, and he knows it. Alonso pits. Ocon pits in front of him. Daniel Ricciardo, fastest lap of the race, a 140.102. Hamilton last time by was a 141.295. He's almost a second a lap faster than Lewis Hamilton and Sebastian Vettel at this point. Verstappen's last lap time, a 140.890. The gap between those two guys is 10 seconds. Fernando Alonso in the pit lane. Good stop by the Mikanda boys. They are eagerly awaiting their Renault power next year. And so far, those Mercedes cars appear bulletproof. Verstappen is up 11 positions in 15 laps. Absolutely mind-boggling performance from the Dutchman. Definitely, Deadpool, the faster F1 car was the MP420. That was, on paper, the fastest F1 car ever made. Of course, we weren't able to see the ultimate pace due to the ridiculous tire rolls in 2005, but that MP420 had about 1,000 horsepower, and it was lighter than anything else on the grid. Of course, that was also the cause of many of its reliability issues. We have a Red Bull going slowly here. Daniel Ricciardo going slowly in Sector 3. He has pulled off the circuit, and evidently he's trying to find a fire marshal. I see no smoke or anything issuing forth from the rear of that Red Bull. However, Daniel Ricciardo has stopped the car in Sector 3 just on the inside of turn 15, and it would appear that he's out of the race. Radio. Ricciardo on the radio saying that the engine is gone. He becomes our third retirement. Waiting to see if there's any replay here as to what happened with Ricciardo. He just made that pit stop, and he was fighting his way back up through the field. However, it's all over for Daniel Ricciardo. Anyway, Honda should definitely leave F1. They've done nothing but embarrass themselves for the last 3 years, and if they think they're going to find any success with Toro Rosso, they are sorely mistaken. Honda needs to poach all of the engineers from Ferrari and all the engineers from Mercedes if they want to have anything that's going to be competitive. However, they're not going to do that, so Honda are going to continue being the joke that they are. Replay with Daniel Ricciardo. What happens here? Let's listen. Catastrophic failure on that Renault power unit in the back of the Red Bull RB13. It was running fine on full revs down the straight, under braking, the downshifts were fine, and then as he got back on the power, bang! Seemed like a big end bearing failure on that engine. Just something let go, and it sounded like a connecting rod went through the side of a block. It was something like that. Absolutely catastrophic. Meanwhile, Sebastian Vettel pits and out onto the soft compound yellow sidewall tires. Super soft, rather. Vettel resumes in P5. Grosjean also in the pits. Verstappen now up to P4 by virtue. The order now Hamilton, Bottas, Raikkonen, Verstappen, and then Sebastian Vettel. The gap between Bottas and Hamilton there is 7.7 seconds. We are awaiting Hamilton's pit stop, and perhaps Verstappen's as well. Lewis Hamilton on the radio saying that his tires are good. How much longer can Mercedes stretch this first stint? This is all gravy now for Hamilton, provided that he's faster than Vettel on aggregate. Just watching Hamilton's tires under loading here through Sector 3. I see no graining, I see no flat spots, I see no reason why these tires can't stay out for at least another 5 laps. Sebastian Vettel fastest in sectors 2 and 3, 39.46 in sector 2, 33.057 in sector 3. He is about half a second faster through those respective sectors than anybody else. Of course, his last lap time is a 1:59.330. Remember that he made a pit stop there, waiting to see the ultimate pace of Sebastian Vettel on these new tires. Daniel Ricciardo back in the pit lane. He still has his helmet on. He probably doesn't want to be talking to anybody at this particular juncture. Seemed like a big problem on that Renault engine. It just stopped. He got on the throttle and then boom. Do we see any smoke at the back of that Red Bull? I do not even in the moment of failure. So perhaps a rod didn't go through the side of the block. However, something big let go on that Renault engine. Bottas in the pits. He pits before Hamilton. So let's expect Hamilton in perhaps on the next lap. Raikkonen inherits P2 for the time being. Verstappen may also do so. Verstappen now up into P3. Sebastian Vettel, fastest lap, 1:39.702. That is the difference. 2 seconds a lap faster than Lewis Hamilton. It's time to get that Mercedes in the pits. That was a 2.2 second stop for Valtteri Bottas. Meanwhile, Romain Grosjean in the sole remaining Haas car. No, both Haas cars are still running. I beg your pardon. Grosjean running in P15, Magnussen running in P14. Hamilton in the pits. Race leader is in. The stop for Bottas was 2.2 seconds. How is this pit stop for Hamilton? Great stop, guys. That was quick. Still waiting for a stopwatch on it. Hamilton resumes in the pit lane on that 50-mile-an-hour speed limit. Looking for Sebastian Vettel. Hamilton should comfortably resume in front of Sebastian Vettel. Hamilton has got the inside line through turn 1, and there it is. Now, can Vettel do anything because his tires are warm? Vettel almost loses it on the exit of turn 1, trying his best on his warm tires to get an advantage on Lewis Hamilton. However, I do not think he's going to be able to do it. Sector 1 definitely favors the Mercedes, even though it is on colder tires for the moment. Max Verstappen up into P2 on this pit stop rotation. He is up 14 positions from the start. Kimi Räikkönen currently your race leader on this pit stop rotation. Vettel has DRS on Hamilton, however, he's not close enough really to take advantage of it, and I do expect that Mercedes to pull away just as it did after Hamilton made that overtake for the lead in the first stint. Kimi Räikkönen continues to be your race leader. He is followed to the tune of 3.3 seconds by Max Verstappen. How much longer can Verstappen stay at? He is on the super soft compound. Räikkönen is on the ultra soft. Räikkönen now in the pits. Verstappen inherits the race lead, believe it or not. He's up 15 positions from where he started, now leading the United States Grand Prix. Driver of the day, yes. Meanwhile, Hamilton fastest to sector 2, 39.407. Compare that to Sebastian Vettel, 39.876 in sector 2. Hamilton already faster than Vettel, even though Hamilton's tires still coming up to temperature. Verstappen still running faster than Vettel did on his previous lap. Vettel's last lap time of 140.744. Verstappen's last lap time of 140.667. Hamilton fastest of all in Sector 2, 26.527. Vettel, Sector 2 time, 26.742. Verstappen's pace is still competitive, even though his tires are 23 laps old. When will we see him pit? Will he pit right at half distance? It is quite possible. If that's the case, we expect to see him remain out for at least another 5 laps. Räikkönen fastest Sector 2, 39.275. Compare that to Hamilton, 39.788. Räikkönen fastest in sectors 2 and 3. He's getting up to speed there on his new set of tires. I do have to say that performance from the Mercedes so far, particularly through Sector 1, the car is absolutely on rails. It is almost like watching a slot car going through Sector 1 there. Hamilton chasing Verstappen, 1.2 seconds is the gap. Hamilton will have DRS on him potentially on the next lap, we'll see. I believe they've already passed the detection line for Sector 3. Indeed they have. You know, guys, I don't want to really say this yet, but there is a chance that Max Verstappen could win this race. As crazy an idea as that sounds, he is still competitively quick on 25-lap-old super soft tires, and as David Hobbs was just saying, it is now a tenable idea to run these tires a little bit longer, get in around the half-distance point of the race, and then throw on the Ultra Softs. Now the car is going to be, well, theoretically half the weight as it was at the start. Can he get those Ultra Softs to last for the rest of the race and remain competitively quick? I don't know, it's a tall order, but there is a chance, at least, that Max Verstappen could actually win this race. If he were to pit right now, he would resume in P6 ahead of Felipe Massa, and then, assuming that the Ultra Softs remain quicker than everybody else for the duration of the race, we'll see. Lewis Hamilton fighting Max Verstappen at the end of the straight with DRS range. However, Verstappen holds him off. Yes, indeed he does. Verstappen is still competitively quick at this point. Verstappen, however, runs wide there through the next sequence of corners, and Hamilton retakes his position. Does Verstappen fight back? No, he does not. Now, if you're Red Bull, get Max in the pits. Hamilton is now your race leader. Verstappen in second. Vettel in third. Verstappen does not take to the pit lane. Red Bull playing the long game with their strategy here, but at this point I don't think it really makes sense to keep him out there. He is now starting to lose pace relative to the Mercedes. Speaking of the Mercedes, Hamilton sets fastest lap, a 139.233, fastest of all in Sector 1 at a 26.385. Max Verstappen lost about 2 seconds in that fight with Hamilton. He's now done a 42.014. Sebastian Vettel, 140.418 last time by the flag stand. Kimi Räikkönen sets a personal best at a 139.443. He's about 0.2 slower than the fastest lap held by Hamilton at the moment. In replay, Stoffel Van Dorn and Carlos Sainz. Are we going to see any drama here? Not really. I don't know why that warranted a slow motion replay. Typical DRS overtake, Sainz on Van Dorn. Red Bull in the pit lane, and Verstappen is in the pit lane. Do they put him on the Ultra Softs? I would venture to say they will. He should resume in P5 ahead of Felipe Massa. And Max, no, he does not go onto the Ultra Softs. He goes onto the soft compound. Well then, my optimistic permutations of Max Verstappen perhaps fighting for the lead at the end of this race not going to materialize. Red Bull thinking the long game once again. They want to have him fighting for the podium by the end of this race. I'd have put him on the Ultra Softs. Who cares if they don't quite make the rest of the distance? Alonso VTEC has kicked in. There is some sort of issue on the McHonda. He is going slowly and he's tumbling down the leaderboard. Currently classified in P14 and he recovers to the pit lane. VTEC has kicked in too hard once again. How many retirements is that now this year for McLaren? Like 20? Something crazy like that, counting both cars? Fernando Alonso becomes the 4th driver out of the race. Your retirements are Alonso, Ricciardo, Wehrlein, and Hulkenberg. Last car running is Marcus Ericsson in P16. Verstappen, fastest in Sector 3 at a 32.552. Coming up to speed now on his new set of soft tires. He is running in P5. He resumed right where I thought he would. P5 ahead of Felipe Massa. He is 9.3 seconds down the road from Kimi Räikkönen, and Verstappen goes fastest in Sector 1, 26.359. Meanwhile, from P11, Stoffel Van Dorn dives into the pit lane. Is this a scheduled stop? It could well be. It'd be his first stop of the day. And Van Dorn resumes. He is now on the Ultra Softs. Verstappen could well be on his way to setting fastest lap of the race here. Let's watch his times through Sector 3. And there it is. I call it, and there it is. Max Verstappen in P5, fastest lap of the race, a 138.523. That is about 1 second faster than anybody else so far. McLaren are going to be a lot better next year with that Renault power. I mean, have a look at what Verstappen is doing here. Maybe the Renault engine is not the most reliable out there, as we've seen numerous times this season, as Mika Häkkinen looks on from the McLaren hospitality unit. The Renault engine is not the most reliable. We've seen that, obviously, with Ricciardo today and Verstappen several times this year, but it is reliable enough to be quick, and of course, Verstappen right now holds the fastest lap of the race. I would love it if we could get podium interviews from Mika Häkkinen this afternoon. I doubt it'll happen, but it would be quite a humorous affair, particularly if we could see Bottas or Räikkönen up there. I mean, I would laugh all week long if Mika Häkkinen were to ask Lewis Hamilton a question. So, what was it like when you overtook the Sebastian? When you overtook the Sebastian, were you thinking, well, I guess I overtake him now? And then Hamilton would just say, what? Anyway, sharp end of the field. Hamilton continues to lead Sebastian Vettel by 4.4 seconds. P3 for Valtteri Bottas, P4 Kimi Räikkönen, and P5 Max Verstappen. He is still lapping faster than anybody else with a 139.316 last time by. Felipe Massa up into P6. Not a bad day for the Brazilian. The sole remaining Mikanda all the way down in P15. We're watching Van Dorn's pace. If McLaren do have a reliability problem common to both cars, it should start to rear its ugly head pretty soon. Expecting Van Dorn to make a move on Brendan Hartley anytime now. And Fernando Alonso already walking out of the back of the paddock. He has all of his race gear taken off. I would assume he is jetting off back to Spain at any time now. And at this point, working lap 29 of 56, with half the race over, there is still half the race to go. Last guy out there still running on his original set of tires is Felipe Massa up in P6, running on those super softs, expecting him in the pit lane any time now. I do have to say, all of your impersonations of me are 100% accurate. I thought I was listening to myself there for a moment. Meanwhile, Felipe Massa made his pit stop just as I predicted. He has resumed in P12. He is now on the ultra soft tires, good to go to the end as far as I can tell. Personal best lap for Kevin Magnussen in P11, 141.662. He is still quite a ways slower than the fastest guys right now on the circuit. Max Verstappen and, believe it or not, Kimi Räikkönen are running faster than anybody else. Verstappen's last lap, a 139.520. Räikkönen's last lap, a 139.529. They are within 8 thousandths of a second of each other. That's pretty incredible. Räikkönen might be able to bring the fight to Valtteri Bottas. The gap is 1.9 seconds between those two guys. Verstappen, however, will definitely be bringing the fight to Räikkönen before too long. 5.3 seconds is the gap between those two. Ayrton, I will review the 4.5 once VRC release it. We've been waiting for it for about a year now. Also, it is time for all of us to get our tinfoil hats on, because from Autosport, Daniel Ricciardo apparently was unaware that Max Verstappen was given an upgraded Renault engine for this weekend's race, and Daniel Ricciardo's engine failed. One wonders, was this planned? Could it possibly have been planned? Did they know that that engine specification was unreliable and they're favoring Max? Zach Brown from the McLaren pit wall saying that they have experienced an engine-related failure. That is PC code speak for Honda done messed up yet again. Yes, my Twitter feed is rather vulgar, especially when certain fans start to chat and shall we say, the topics go in many different places. Yes, I try to keep it as clean as possible for the YouTube content, because apparently YouTube hates free speech and hates any form of self-expression that doesn't echo its own corporate opinions. However, on the Twitter side of the world, and anything else that I post in text, or even sometimes on Instagram as well, I do let the expletives fly, because that is a much more accurate depiction of how I actually think and how I actually express myself. So, yeah. Working lap 34 of 56. Of course, Lewis Hamilton maintains the lead. It has grown to 5.3 seconds over Sebastian Vettel in P2, P3 for Valtteri Bottas. Bottas is now just 2 seconds behind Sebastian Vettel. Could we even see a Mercedes 1-2? It is certainly possible here. Raikkonen in P4, 1.1 seconds behind Bottas, still holding station, oddly enough. Max Verstappen in P5. Meanwhile, we're seeing an absolute battle royale between a Renault and a Force India. That is between Sainz and Perez, as far as I am aware. Sainz has P7, Perez had P7, and he wants it back dearly. This could come to tears. Of course, Sainz is also in a Force India sandwich right now with Ocon in P6, so yeah, that could get ugly for a whole number of reasons. Perez locks up into turn 1 and very nearly runs into the side of Carlos Sainz there. However, everybody behaves themselves. Daniel Kvyat also getting in on the action. The torpedo is locked and loaded. This might not work so well. If you would like to hear some unadulterated swearing, just find the live stream of the Indy 500 and go to about 2.5 hours in, right when Fernando Alonso blew up. Yeah, that did not make me happy. Meanwhile, Kimi Räikkönen quietly setting fastest Sector 1 time at a 26.342. Marginally faster than Hamilton and... No, that is... Yes, that is Kimi Räikkönen. Timing and scoring kind of had a little bit of a hiccup there. Räikkönen, 26.342 in Sector 1. Hamilton, 26.379 Sector 1 there, so marginally quicker than Hamilton and Bottas as well. Vettel, however, 0.4 slower in Sector 1. Räikkönen now just 6 tenths behind Valtteri Bottas on track. Are we going to see an overtake here? It is certainly possible. Meanwhile, Lewis Hamilton out there in a class of his own, 6.5 seconds ahead of Sebastian Vettel. He is lapping consistently in the low 39s. Verstappen still running in the 38s. However, he's down in P5, 3.3 seconds behind Kimi Räikkönen for P4. Interesting to note, even on the ultra-soft tires, Massa still running in the mid-140s, and Van Dorn still running in the low 141s. Everybody else on the soft compounds running in the 39s or even 38s in the case of Max Verstappen. Esteban Ocon has the oldest tires there in the top 6 with 21 laps on his set. Perez has the oldest tires of all in the top 10 with 16 laps on his set. With 23 laps on his set, mind you. Hamilton's tires are 16 laps old, and Vettel's tires are 19 laps old. Brendan Hartley in the pit lane. He will drop down into P16. Brendan Hartley resumes in P16, and last he is now 1 lap down. Lap times, Bottas v. Max. Last lap for Bottas, a 139.839. Max's last lap time, a 138.904. Almost a second a lap quicker. Hamilton goes purple in Sector 1, 26.340. Compare that to Vettel at 26.642. Vettel running about a tenth of a second slower per lap rather than Lewis Hamilton. Steve Matchett talking about the possibility of Vettel turning this into a two-stop strategy, perhaps running the last 20 or so laps of this race on the ultrasofts, and just hoping beyond hope that he makes up that ground lost in the pit stop with the speed differential between the soft and the ultrasoft. It's possible. However, 7 seconds is the gap now. You have to figure Vettel would lose another 18 to 20 seconds making that pit stop. Is that even recoverable, assuming that Hamilton goes to the end, which he well could? Verstappen in the pits. He's got to be going onto those ultra soft. That is a short stint there on those soft tires. I told you they should have gone onto the ultra softs at that pit stop. Have they finally agreed with me? There he is. He is on the ultra softs. No, he is not. He's on the super softs. What happened here? Why did they do that? Why did they do that? I was confused there because the ultra softs this weekend have the purple sidewall. However, it is indeed the red sidewalled super soft tires that they have put Verstappen onto. It doesn't make sense to make a third pit stop here. Put the ultra softs on. Why did you do that? Well, let's watch Verstappen's lap times nonetheless, because if he's considerably quicker on the super softs here, remember, Vettel in the pits. All right, forget watching Verstappen. Vettel is in the pits. What are Ferrari going to do? What tires have they got? They have super softs in the pit lane for Sebastian Vettel. All right, can you do anything, boys? Hamilton should, in theory, be good to go to the end. Will Mercedes react now? Let's watch these lap times for Verstappen and for, now, Sebastian Vettel. He's dropped down into 4th position. He's left the pits now. All 4 wheels are on. He is under the speed limit, just waiting to come to the line. How close will Verstappen get? I do believe Vettel will rejoin ahead of Verstappen, and indeed he does, with some comfort behind there. Vettel now on the super soft tires, as is Max Verstappen. So these guys, in theory, evenly matched as far as the tires are concerned. Verstappen's last lap time, remember, he made the pit stop at 1:55.912, fastest of all in Sector 1. What is the time for Sebastian Vettel? Hamilton Radio, keep me up to date with what you need me to do. The tires are still good. I don't think Hamilton needs to stop again. I really don't. I was not expecting this to be a 2-stop race. However, for the front runners, it does appear to be the case at this point. That's interesting. The gap between Verstappen and Vettel is 1.1 seconds. It is right there in a single TV camera shot. Verstappen fastest in Sector 1. The order now, working lap 40 of 56. Lewis Hamilton leads Valtteri Bottas by 8.9 seconds. P3 for Kimi Räikkönen. P4, remember pit stops rotations here, Sebastian Vettel. P5, Max Verstappen. Speaking, Verstappen, fastest lap of the race yet again, a 138.060. We're going to be in the 37s, no doubt, by the end of this race. Romain Grosjean and Felipe Massa are going for it here, entering Sector 3. Massa has P10. Grosjean wants P10, particularly here on home soil. We want some Haas points. On board with Kimi Räikkönen in P3, he has Valtteri Bottas ahead to the tune of half a second only. On board with Räikkönen right before US terrestrial TV goes to break. Yeah. Räikkönen's tires still look good. They're 18 laps old. No, 19 laps old now. Verstappen still holds fastest lap. Vettel's sector times are not that remarkable, all things considered. They are, on aggregate, faster than Verstappen, but nothing tremendous. Vettel is slightly faster than Verstappen, 38.28 his last lap. Verstappen's last lap at 38.71, so he's marginally faster than Verstappen. However, nothing really to write home about. Meanwhile, speaking of sector times, Lewis Hamilton goes purple in Sector 1 at a 26.12. For those of you who are interested in the tail end of the field, we have Ericsson, Stroll, and Hartley now one lap down. Cars that are still running have been lapped up to P14. That is Marcus Ericsson. The next car to go a lap down will be Kevin Magnussen. Hamilton's last lap time of 1:39.293. He's running quick. However, he is still slower than Verstappen's best lap at 1:38.716. The gap between Hamilton and Verstappen is 25.3 seconds. I do have to say, just the way Williams has, well, they collapsed 20 years ago, and they have never really recovered. That is really a sad thing, because when you read the history of the 80s and the early 90s, Williams were the team. They had Adrian Newey, they were pioneers with all of that new technology, with the semi-automatic gearbox, the active suspension, the V10s, all of that. They were right there, and of course, they were the guys to beat. But then after 97, really after 96, they parted ways with Damon Hill, and then, of course, Adrian Newey. They lost Adrian Newey after 97. He went to McLaren, and then, of course, he designed the MP413, with which Mika Hakkinen took his 2 world championships, the 413 and the 414 in 98 and 99. And then, of course, Adrian Newey stayed with McLaren. They continued to be title contenders for a few more seasons after that, through the mid-2000s. But Williams, with all of the know-how, with all the resources that they had in that era, they just have been nowhere ever since. And it really is a shame, because you see a team like Williams, you see their name plastered all over the history books of motorsport, yet they have absolutely nothing to show for it today. It is a very sad deal. Kimi Räikkönen has finally gotten ahead of Valtteri Bottas. He's 2 seconds faster than Bottas was on that previous lap. Ferrari have finally told Kimi that he can actually drive a little bit faster, considering Vettel is in P4. I wouldn't say Räikkönen showing his 2005 form. He's showing his 2008 form. Remember that? His reigning championship year. And Räikkönen was basically nowhere all the way through 2008. He was really never able to mount a title defense, and I'm not entirely sure that he wanted to either. But at the end of the race, he would just come to life and just set fastest lap for no reason whatsoever. He was nowhere in contention for the win, or oftentimes even a podium, but he would set fastest lap simply because he could. Because he was world champion. He's doing that again. Driver of the Day voting is now open on the Formula One website. honestly, I think it's got to go to Max Verstappen. He is up all kinds of positions. He's up 11 positions from where he started. He's done an absolutely phenomenal job, and there's a good chance that he could put one on Sebastian Vettel before this day is over. It's got to go to Max. Hamilton Radio. Mercedes radio to Hamilton saying that he did a 38.8 on the last lap. That's not actually true. He did a 38.9. However, Hamilton responds saying, "How are they so close?" I'm assuming that's referring to Raikkonen and Vettel. How are they so close? Well, you're fighting for the World Championship. They are your competition, so you should be pretty evenly matched, Lewis. Cameron, you should have brought one of those extra battery packs, one of those power blocks with you. When I went to Pocono for the IndyCar race, I had one of those with me, and it just kept me running all day long. No problem. Magnussen has now gone a lap down. The last car on the lead lap is now P12, Stoffel Van Dorn. You know, what really killed Williams was losing Adrian Newey at the end of '97. Absolutely, that did it, because Newey was the brainchild, the brain trust behind the FW14, 14B, 15, all of those wonderful cars, and he kept that overall aero philosophy with really strong underbody aero all the way through '97. And of course, it's no surprise that Williams were winning everything from '92 to '97 for the most part. Of course, Benetton came in there as well. However, once they lost Adrian Newey, they really lost their design direction. I think they had a little bit of a love affair with John Barnard at the beginning of 1998, but then after that I really can't tell you who was designing the Williams cars because they were so terrible and nobody really took any notice of them. I know who was designing the McLarens though, and the Ferraris. Adrian Newey for McLaren and Ross Brawn and Rory Byrne for the Ferraris. Cameron, I'm very sorry that you have a Samsung. I have some Samsung appliances, and they break all the time. So definitely, once your phone shuts down due to battery starvation, throw it and run away. Ten laps to go here in the United States Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton leads from Kimi Raikkonen to the tune of 11.3 seconds. If we see Kimi on the podium and Bottas on the podium, we're going to have two Finns there, and they're not going to want to say much. Ferrari radio to Kimi saying multifunction turbo 6. They're asking him to turn that turbocharger down a little bit just to open up the wastegates a bit more, save some fuel. But Kimi's saying, well, I'm fast now, and you want me to slow down, I'm going to lose P2, so what you want me to do, guys? So they came to a conclusion saying, alright, multifunction turbo 5 instead of 6. Does that make much of a performance difference? Not really. Gap between Raikkonen and Hamilton is 12.1 seconds. Max Verstappen fastest in Sector 1, 26.097. He is about 0.3 faster than anybody else through Sector 1 at this point. And we have Kevin Magnussen facing the wrong way at the end of the long straight. Any obvious damage on that Haas car? Not really. Was there contact with anyone else, or did he lose that all on his own? That was slightly embarrassing for the Dane. We have some damage on the Sauber of Marcus Ericsson. Is this related to what happened with Kevin Magnussen? It may well be. Ericsson saying that Magnussen turned in on him. Two Scandinavians about to go head-to-head here. Yes, I just did see a shadow of an eagle go over turn 1. Was that something that was done with TV graphics, or was that just serendipitous on the part of some eagle flying in front of the sun? Because that looked pretty cool, and I do have to wonder, for the US Grand Prix, with all of those freedom memes and things that do center around eagles, I do have to wonder if FOM would do something a little bit cheeky like that. Let's see, Sebastian Vettel was in that sandwich between Ericsson and Magnussen. There was contact between Ericsson and Magnussen. However, I would argue that Ericsson was kind of unsighted by Vettel being between he and Magnussen there. Conversely, Magnussen being on the outside, I think he was watching Sebastian Vettel, who just shot through like an absolute rocket, and then wasn't really cognizant of Ericsson being there. So Magnussen did turn in on Ericsson, but did he ever see him? I don't know. Sebastian Vettel, fastest lap of the race, 137.957. Meanwhile, he was unscathed in that incident. Meanwhile, Lewis Hamilton continues to lead over Kimi Raikkonen by 13.7 seconds. We have a proper eternity and a half now between Hamilton and Raikkonen. No, Iona, you're forgetting the Winter War in World War II between Finland and the Soviet Union, when Finland absolutely destroyed them. Just because Finnish isn't a Norse language doesn't mean that they're not part of Scandinavia. Vettel ended up in P4 due to his last pit stop, which was in reaction to Max Verstappen's pit stop. However, all Ferrari managed to do there with that pit stop was to cover Verstappen. They lost the position to Bottas, and Raikkonen is now 16 seconds up the road, basically. There's no prayer of Vettel being able to fight with Hamilton now. So Vettel only needs to lose 2 spots before Lewis Hamilton wins the World Championship today. That was a terrible move by Ferrari. Sebastian Vettel on Valtteri Bottas now. Vettel has DRS. Is he close enough? I don't think so. Indeed, he is not. Sebastian Vettel really fighting with Valtteri Bottas. He knows that he's in a lot of trouble here if he loses 2 more positions. I'm not saying that that's likely. However, Vettel really does need to overtake Bottas just to build a little bit of a cushion to stay mathematically alive in the Drivers' Championship. With 5 laps to go here this time by, it is coming down to decision time. Sebastian Vettel makes an absolutely inspired move on Valtteri Bottas into turn 1. He laps Stoffel Van Dorn, who was off on the outside, so he couldn't really go to the outside. And then he slots himself between Van Dorn and Bottas to take Bottas for P3. Sebastian Vettel now in 3rd place. Now, do we watch Kimi Raikkonen, who is about 14 seconds up the road, slowed down massively to give Vettel 2nd place. Anything is possible. Is this time for Ferrari to have a phantom spark plug failure on Raikkonen's car? We shall see. Max Verstappen's got DRS range on Valtteri Bottas. Bottas covers the inside. However, Verstappen has to negotiate the Haas. He does. Now Verstappen is unleashed onto Valtteri Bottas. Let's see what he can do. Verstappen is right there up the Finn's gearbox. Can he do anything through Sector 3? He will undoubtedly have DRS assistance down the start-finish straight. However, Max may not need it. He is right under the gearbox of that Mercedes. Verstappen certainly not disappointing here in the closing stages of this US Grand Prix. We stay on board with him. He's cutting right to the inside there. Unbelievable. Ferrari radioing Raikkonen. Seb is now the car behind. Big lockup by Bottas there into the final corner. Can Verstappen do anything into turn 1? I'm not going to say so. However, we saw what Ricciardo was able to do on Bottas. Oh, look, there's Raikkonen slowing down massively, and Sebastian Vettel goes by. Sebastian Vettel somehow made up almost 20 seconds in half a lap. Incredible. Sebastian Vettel is now in 2nd place. Kimi Raikkonen lost about 20 seconds on the previous lap. Unbelievable. Vettel was nowhere near Raikkonen. Raikkonen had to basically stop for almost 20 seconds to let Vettel through. Unbelievable. Here's Max Verstappen on Valtteri Bottas. Bottas locks up big time under braking. There was contact between the Red Bull and the Mercedes there. I'm seeing damage on the car of Verstappen. Is it significant? I don't know. Verstappen overtakes Valtteri Bottas for P4. Bottas comes back to fight. However, he's going to have to back out of that because Bottas lost that under braking. That was Bottas' fault. I am sorry. Verstappen consolidates that 4th place now. That is quite a bit of gamesmanship there. And Bottas goes into the pits. Bottas is in the pits. Disaster for Bottas. He's making a pit stop. Why? He's on ultra softs now. Mercedes put Bottas on ultra soft tires with 3 laps to go in the... Why? Why did you do that? What was the point of that? Bottas will resume in P5. The gap to Ocon was 67 seconds, but what's the point of that? You run the risk of making a mistake in the pit stop, wrecking the car. Why? Sebastian Vettel is about 17 years behind Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton is safe up there in P1. And with this lap to go, plus 2, I do say Lewis Hamilton has won the United States Grand Prix. Let's see, on board with Verstappen on Bottas here. Verstappen's got the inside line. I believe there was contact there between Verstappen and Bottas. However, that camera angle didn't quite show it. We need an on board with Bottas. Lewis Hamilton now lapping about 2 seconds a lap slower than Sebastian Vettel. It hardly matters. The gap has now come down to 15 years between Vettel and Hamilton. Lulu won by 86 nautical miles. He's so Hamilton is in space right now. Really cool. Hamilton's already on the flight back to England. See, he's going so fast that the space-time continuum is warped. Hamilton has already won the race. We just haven't seen it yet. For the rest of the universe, 2 laps to go in this United States Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton has now landed back in Brackley in the United Kingdom. It's next week. He's getting ready to go to Mexico at this point. However, everybody else in our universe, we're still racing in Austin. Max Verstappen still thinking about Kimi Räikkönen. He is 0.9 of a second behind the Finn. However, at this point, if he can't pull a move off, I guess it's not the worse for wear. You've got basically 1 lap to go. Lewis Hamilton is now starting FP1 in Mexico City. Hamilton has tripped the timing line in Sector 1. Red Bull telling Verstappen that he's got one shot at it with Kimi Räikkönen. No kidding, because it's the final lap. Verstappen fastest in Sector 1, 25.931. Is he going to set fastest lap on the last lap? It is certainly possible. Are we going to see a change of position here between Räikkönen and Verstappen on the final lap? It is certainly possible. He is gaining to the tune of about a half a second a lap on Kimi Räikkönen. Verstappen working his way through Sector 1 there. He's really pushing that Red Bull there through Sector 1. You can see those front tires folding underneath their own weight and the weight of the G-force there through those high-speed corners. Absolutely incredible grip. Verstappen is 25 kilometers an hour faster than Kimi Räikkönen down the back straight. However, that is not enough. Max Verstappen overdid it a little bit here through Sector 3. I think that was his last opportunity. Meanwhile, we need to pick up Lewis Hamilton here on the world feed. Max Verstappen going side by side with Kimi Räikkönen into turn 18. I think he's made that position go past. Meanwhile, Lewis Hamilton wins the Mexican Grand Prix. He won the United States Grand Prix a week ago in Cosmic Time. Max Verstappen is in P3. He did overtake Kimi Räikkönen there through turn 17. Verstappen finishes in the final podium position. Driver of the day, you betcha. Max, that was an incredible, absolutely incredible display, up 13 spots from where he started. Max Verstappen's the real winner of this race. Let's see this in replay. Räikkönen is ahead beginning Sector 3 in this Mickey Mouse section that no one particularly likes here. However, Verstappen on the inside is able to get better traction, and then he consolidates that position. Absolutely incredible. One hour, 33 minutes, 50 seconds is the official race time for winner Lewis Hamilton. And we confirm it at this point. Mercedes have won the 2017 Formula One Constructors World Championship. Mercedes AMG Petronas, the Constructors Champions, for 4 years in succession. So the monkey remains on Ferrari's back for another year. No Constructors' Championships since 2008. Maranello expects, Italy expects, the world expects. How has this happened to Ferrari? This is true. Max Verstappen cannot partake in the champagne spraying on the podium because he is not 21, and the drinking age in the United States is 21. Nobody in Europe really cares about that, but in the United States, we're all very prudish about this sort of thing. You can go off to war when you're 18, but you can't have a beer until you're 21. It's absolutely ridiculous. Yes, Jonathan, it's actually worse than that. In some states, you can drive a car as young as 14. In the Midwest, where there's still a lot of farming and families have businesses that involve use of heavy equipment, children can legally drive at 14. Wait, we're seeing a 5-second penalty for Max Verstappen? Is that confirmed? We have no coverage, no confirmation of that over here. We're in commercial. He's been given a 5-second time penalty. Is that correct? It'll be about 4 hours before U.S. television comes back to the race here because they must give us commercials for the Winter Olympics and arthritis medication. So, waiting for confirmation on my side of the ocean. So you're telling me that Verstappen gets a penalty for leaving the track and gaining an advantage. I would love to be told where exactly that happened. The guy gave us arguably the best drive that we've seen all season, and you're not going to let him keep it. That is absolutely disgraceful. Liberty Media, you've done a great job so far this year, but you've got to stop stupid bullshit like that. That is fucking ridiculous. Why do you have a driver as talented as Verstappen? What incentive does he have now to go fight for a podium again the next time he starts 15th because you tell him that he's got to start 20-something goddamn places back because of an engine failure? No, absolutely not. That is what turns people off of this sport. That stupid bureaucratic bullshit needs to stop. Where does he leave the track? In replay. Because he cut to the inside of the apex when Raikkonen moved over him. Would they rather him run into the side of Kimi Raikkonen and put both of their lives at risk? No, absolutely not. No, absolutely not. So now some attendant is going to come in and drag Max Verstappen out of the prep room? No. How undignified is that? Raikkonen moved over on it. If anything, Raikkonen should get a penalty there if you're going to be giving out penalties for stupid crap like that. But it's the last lap of a race. These guys are fighting for position. They didn't come together. There was no contact. Everybody's okay. You're seriously going to take the guy's podium away? No, absolutely not. Screw you, FOM. Screw you, Liberty, quite honestly. And whoever the hell the driver steward is this weekend needs to be taken out in an alley and beaten. That's absolutely ridiculous. Kimi just moved over, rightly so, to defend the inside line through turn 17, but honestly, where is Max supposed to go? He has nothing to hit if he turns right. He has Kimi Raikkonen to hit if he turns left. He's got to he has to avoid a collision, and that's what he did. Would you rather Verstappen and Raikkonen take each other out, or would you rather have the result that we had? Unbelievable. Screw you, FOM. Screw you, Liberty Media. Screw you, FIA. That is a joke. That's an absolute joke. You ruined what was a really great race. Absolutely great. Now we got to go back into the results and put a little asterisk next to Max Verstappen. He actually finished third, but no, we're going to classify him as fourth now because, well, he overtook somebody on the last lap in a particularly aggressive fashion, and it looked really cool on television, and it was a great display of driving skill, but no, we didn't like the way he did it, so he can't keep his podium. No, absolutely not. Could you imagine if a NASCAR race, I mean, it's typically, it's pretty usual, it's pretty common to see a NASCAR race end with a big accident or whatever. Could you imagine that whoever ends up crossing the line first at the end of a NASCAR race, when that big pile-up accident is happening behind him, could you imagine if he weren't allowed to keep the win because they needed to count back onto, you know, like 2 laps prior or something ridiculous like that? Could you imagine what mayhem would erupt at the track? Just no way. For the first time, I am absolutely disgusted to see Kimi Raikkonen on the podium. Lewis Hamilton making his way onto the podium. At least the race win wasn't interfered with. Stand by for the British and German national anthems. Trophy time. President Clinton presenting the winning trophy to Lewis Hamilton. Ever the politician. President Clinton standing next to Lewis Hamilton on the top step of the podium. I bet that's a place neither man thought he would be. The champagne bottles have been painted pink, as of course have all of the top three finishers' hats. Seeing some pink confetti out there in the grandstands as well, in addition to a healthy helping of red, white, and blue, which also happens to be the colors of the Union Jack, which Lewis Hamilton has just commandeered from a fan. Yes, the cheerleaders. Everybody have a look at the cheerleaders. And now this is going to be fun. Usain Bolt from Jamaica doing the podium interviews. Yes, this was an absolutely farcical race here. Of course, the FIA had to ruin it. It was a great day. It was a wonderful spectacle. Max Verstappen gave us something fantastic to talk about, and then they took it away from him. Just like they took away Lewis Hamilton's win at Spa in 2008 for gaining an advantage. Like, are you kidding me? I'm still pissed about Spa 2008. Never mind this. I'm going to be talking about this for another 10 years. Just unquestionably. 10 years from now, we're going to talk about Austin 2017, about how Max Verstappen got robbed for doing nothing wrong. I honestly don't really understand why Usain Bolt is doing these interviews. I mean, he's not doing a bad job, but he seems a bit too informal for the occasion. I don't know. Who else could you have given it to? I mean, Mika Häkkinen is there. Mika would have been a wonderful choice to do this. Himself a winner of the U.S. Grand Prix. His last Formula One victory actually came in Indianapolis, so that would be cool. Who else? Of course, you have Martin Brundle, David Coulthard, Mark Webber. They're always someplace nearby. Bill Clinton even might have been a decent choice to do the interviews. I mean, I don't really think he knows much about motorsport, but he can talk well, so I don't know. But, meh. I agree. I think Felipe Massa really won the World Championship in 2008, and he technically did win the World Championship in 2008. He had it for, I believe, 32.5 seconds, something like that, where he was, as far as the points were concerned, world champion. Considering what happened to Massa the following year with his injury, and then really just falling out of favor with Ferrari the way he did, it really was tragic. It really was. And I think Massa, having grown up in the team alongside Michael Schumacher during that 2006 year, he did everything that he needed to do to become one of the greatest drivers that we've seen. And no matter what Massa does next year, if he's still with us or not, whether he ever manages to win a race again, I will always remember him fondly. He was the guy who Ferrari trusted to take over at the end of the Michael Schumacher era, and he did a good job. He really, really did. The final order there, Hamilton wins from Vettel and Raikkonen in P3. Max Verstappen classified P4. He really finished third on track. Bottas in P5, Ocon P6, Sainz 7th, Perez 8th, Massa 9th, and Kvyat in 10th. Of course, 1 through 10 are all of your point scores. Fastest lap held by Sebastian Vettel, set on lap 51, a 1:37.766. Your finishers 11 to 16, Stroll, Van Dorn, Hartley, Grosjean, Ericsson, and Magnussen. Not classified are all the names that I didn't mention, because they took down the graphics a little bit too quickly there, and I don't have the timing and scoring anymore. However, we have Wehrlein, Ericsson. No, Ericsson did finish. We have Alonso, Wehrlein, Hulkenberg, and there's one other DNF that I am not remembering right now. Who was that fourth DNF? There were 4 DNFs, I know that much. Yes, everybody, it's time for all of us to eat something, because we now have NASCAR coverage on NBCSN, which is undoubtedly going to be a lot more interesting than the Formula One race, because there's no FIA to ruin a NASCAR race. But yeah, it's all time to eat something, and yes, goodbye, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us here today. It was fun up until the end when Charlie Whiting had to say something. However, do join us again in 1 week's time for the Mexican Grand Prix, which hopefully will not have as much pomp and circumstance, but will have even better racing action, because we're going to see these 2017 cars at full tilt with low drag. It's going to be fantastic. Until next time, thank you all very much for joining us today. Ferrariman601 saying thank you, and we will see you soon.